Have a great evening.
Okay, we will move on to our last new application, BellaRosa Realty, Block 10707, lots 6, 7, 8, and 9, Lakeside Boulevard. I don't have an address, but I will ask first that Mr. Riley, Mr. Schindler and Mayor Francis recuse themselves because this is definitely a use variance.
I will recuse.
And the applicant is seeking
I will
preliminary
recuse
and
also.
final site plan approval, bulk variances and use variances to convert commercial space to residential space, etc. We have correspondence from our legal expert about this one. I assume everybody has seen that. And with that, I will ask if anybody is here to represent BellaRosa Realty.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Tom Malman. I'm an attorney with Dave Pitney and Parsippany here on behalf of the applicant. Nice to see you all. And thank you for summarizing the application for us for preliminary and final site plan approval as well as bulk and use variances. The property on Lakeside Boulevard, probably a property you drive by almost every day. It's a very prominent property in the borough. And you may be aware this applicant was before the board about 3 years ago in 2017. This applicant's owned the property for about 5 years. And in 2017, he came before you to convert some of what were then commercial space to residential space. The board saw fit to approve that application at that time. Tonight, we're kind of continuing the trend with that. We're proposing to convert additional commercial space to residential space in the existing buildings. Also proposing to build 3 new residential buildings on the site. And of course, most of the property is in the business zone, which does not permit residential uses, which therefore requires a use variance. There is a small part of the property in the back in a residential zone, which is not being developed. It's a very prominent site. We think we've done justice to it in terms of this design. We hope that we'll show you tonight, and if we finish tonight, it's an attractive design, one that will fill out this property and be complementary to the properties around it as well and provide nice additional housing stock for the borough. We have 4 witnesses.
Will you have anybody else testifying, Mr. Melman?
Yeah, we have 4 witnesses, Mr. Chairman. We have Mark Gimigliano, who's a licensed engineer with Dykstra Walker. He'll be first. We have Ryan Devenny, who's an architect. We have Robert Mazzola, who's with Atrium Development Company. And last but not least, John McDonough, our planning consultant. We'll see how far we get tonight.
Could you bring all of them forward to be sworn in, please?
Sure, gentlemen. Are you all there?
Mr.
Yes.
Haggerty, you want to swear them in?
Yes. Gentlemen,
Oh, can't hear. What happened here?
Where'd you go, counsel?
Let's try.
We have a problem, Houston. The council has left the meeting. Hold on here.
All right, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Wrong.
This is never good. Welcome back, Al.
Mr. Haggerty, are you with us?
Okay, here we go. Bob, you having fun yet?
Yeah. It was fun up till now.
There we go. Whew.
Okay, Mr. Haggerty, you're muted.
Come on, unmute. Bob, you're...
I'm unmuted now.
There we go.
Okay, Mr. Haggerty, it's up to you again.
I'm trying to unmute. Okay, sorry. It keeps fading out on me. I don't know. That's the 3rd time tonight. We swore the witnesses in, and then there was a dead spot here. I don't know what was
Well, you
spoken.
want to swear them in again? We didn't hear that at all.
Oh, all right. Please, gentlemen, raise your right hands. Do you swear to the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Could you recite your names
My name is
in sequence?
my name's Mark Gimigliano, spelled Gimigliano.
Okay, and Ryan?
My name is Ryan Devenny. Last name is Devenney.
And Robert?
It's Robert Mazzola, Mazzola.
And John?
Hi, everyone. My name is John McDonough. That's spelled MC, capital DONOUGH.
Thank you very much. Back to
Thank you.
Mr. Melmont. Mr. Melmont? I don't hear you. I see the other fellows, but not you. Let's see. Ron, do you see him? Ron, you're
Yeah, apparently we're changing locations. Hold on.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
I hope this night gets better than this.
Okay, Mr. Melmont, back to you. Mr. Melmont, you're muted.
Oh, he's going all together now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Muted
muted.
in the
goodness.
video. Up, it's unmuted. Nope,
Up.
again.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Ah,
talk
My-
fast.
my screen froze. I'm not sure what happened. So
All right.
witnesses have been sworn. We
Yes.
also have Mr. Blaney here, who's the applicant. I'm not sure if he'll testify or not, but if need be, we can swear him later on, but he is here and he's
Okay.
on the screen.
Yep.
So I'll call Mark Gimigliano first, who's our licensed engineer.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, you are a licensed engineer, sir? Licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Can we get the exhibit on the screen possibly? Maybe start off with the overall exhibit. I don't know, Mark, if you have them, or if Danielle, you have them.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect. All right, so why don't you start with the easy stuff? Tell us where we are in the borough, what's on the property today, what's around it, and then we'll move into what's being proposed.
Okay, well, just to start off, I brought a couple exhibits here tonight that I'll use to walk you through my testimony. The first one up on the screen is called Aerial Exhibit. It's dated 12/15/20, and it's an aerial image of the property and the surrounding areas. It shows our property based on the existing conditions plan that's included on our plan set, and it's been colorized to show the existing buildings in orange or orangish beige color, the pavement in gray, the lawn areas are in green, and the wooded areas are in dark green.
Okay, let's mark this as A1.
Yes. Now, the property is located on the east side of Lakeside Boulevard in town. Lakeside Boulevard is the road running up and down through the center of the screen. It's located to the east side of Lakeside between Edsel Road and Ryerson Road. Ryerson Road's to the north, Edsel Road's to the south. Property, and I'll zoom in here if I can. Property is currently developed with 3 buildings. They're numbered as Building 31 here at the bottom, Building 33 at the center, and Building 35 at the top. They contain a mixture of residential, retail, office uses, and there's a paved parking area here in the front, which has 6 parking spaces, and a larger paved parking area in the back, which has 26 parking spaces and access onto Ryerson Road. There are walkways in between the buildings. They're shown in white, and there's an enclosed dumpster and recycling area next to the pavement in the back. The south side of the property and the east side of the property are undeveloped and wooded. There's an area of freshwater wetlands on the southeast corner of the property. That's right in this area here. We have a letter of interpretation from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for those wetlands. They've been classified as intermediate resource value and have a 50-foot transition area. The property is split zoned, as Tom mentioned. The dashed white line represents the zone limit. The front of the property where the buildings are located and all the developments located is in the B2 business zone. and the back corner of the property, the southeast corner of the property, is in the R1 residential zone. The other development in the area, north and south along Lakeside Boulevard, is a mixture of residential, retail, and other commercial uses similar to what's on the property. And to the east are all residential properties in the R1 zone, and most of them are developed with single-family homes. There's water, sewer, and electric utilities in the right-of-way adjoining the property, and those utilities will be extended onto the property for the new development on site.
Great, thank you. Just one thing I noted, where it says B2 zone, just behind Ryerson Road, it doesn't show the current building that's on that site. Is that correct? A residential building?
Yeah, that's correct. This must be a little older aerial image, but there's a group home that was recently constructed at that property on the corner right next to us.
Can you just point to that so we're all clear what you're talking about?
Sure, it's right in this area right here where it says B2 zone.
Terrific. All right, why don't we go to the next exhibit and let's talk about what's being proposed.
Okay, and then
A2.
A2 would be great, thank you.
Yeah, and this is called Site Plan Exhibit. It's a colorized version of our site layout plan from the plan set that was submitted to support the application. It also has the aerial image in the background. It's dated 12/15/20. And we show, in addition to the information on the site layout plan, we show the landscaping that's proposed for the site. So you can see here are the three existing buildings, building 31, 33, and 35. And the proposal is to remove the existing office and retail uses, most of the office and retail uses from those buildings, and convert it to residential uses. In fact, the only retail use that's going to remain is the hair salon that's in the corner of building 35 here in the front of the building 35 at the corner of the property. The rest will be converted to residential apartments. We're also proposing to construct 3 new buildings containing residential apartment and townhouse uses. We have a 5-unit building, 2 5-unit buildings on the east side of the parking lot, and a 3-unit building next to building 31 along Lakeside. In total, we will add 10 dwelling units to the property. And in addition to those new buildings, we're also proposing to construct an addition on top of the existing garage, which is right next to building 31. Building 31 is an existing building. There's a garage next to it, which has access in the rear. And there'll be a 2-story home built on top of that, and it will be used as a 2-bedroom townhome. Also proposed is we're going to upgrade the existing parking lot. Instead of a wider parking lot that only has access onto Ryerson Road, it's going to be a longer and narrower parking lot that has access on both Ryerson and Edsel Road. The parking lot will be built out of brick or concrete pavers instead of typical asphalt that you would see for what I think is a more aesthetically pleasing look. When we'll also reconstruct the dumpster area. So it'll be a screened dumpster area right behind the existing buildings for the trash and recycling for the overall development. There'll be new walkways which connect the parking lot and the new buildings to the existing development. And we're also proposing new curbing and a new sidewalk along Edsel Road to connect the new parking lot to the sidewalk in front of along Lakeside. So in total, currently today, there's 1,932 square feet of retail and office space on site and 10 apartments. With this application, we'll be down to 750 square feet of retail space and 26 apartment and townhomes. There are 32 parking spaces on site today, and with this proposal, there'll be 58 parking spaces on site, so that'll be an increase in 26 parking spaces. Instead of just all of the parking exiting the property onto Ryerson Road, it'll be split between both Ryerson and Edsel. Although there will be additional cars on site, by spreading out the parking, any of the traffic impacts from this development will be minor. Other improvements that are proposed are landscaping and lighting throughout the site. The lighting will be light poles along the edge of the parking lot only. There'll be 15-foot high poles with decorative globe-style fixtures on top. They're only 15 feet tall, so they'll be lower than the buildings, and they'll be screened from the surrounding properties by the buildings and the landscaping. They'll illuminate the parking lot, but they won't illuminate any of the adjoining properties. The landscaping that's proposed are some shade trees around the parking lot. You can see them at the ends here and in the middle. And then evergreen trees forming along a berm on the northeast corner of the property and here at the south side of the property. And the landscaping will screen the development from the properties in the R1 zone that are next to the site. We also propose some shrubs and foundation plantings along the proposed buildings. There are no emergency generators proposed. Any air conditioning units for the new building will be through wall units, so there'll be no air conditioning condenser units on the ground. Currently there's a gang style cluster mailbox for the development on Ryerson Road right about here. And we're proposing 2 additional mailboxes for the development. One will be right next to it on Ryerson Road. The other one will be on Edsel Road. And the final location will be coordinated with the post office. We're also proposing a site identification sign. And I'll zoom in a little bit here. You can see that in the front here along Lakeside Boulevard. It'll be a V-shaped, 2-sided monument sign. It'll be 10 feet off the road and identify the property, 10 feet off of the property line, and it'll identify the property as Lakeside Manor. Each side will be 4 feet by 8 feet in size, and it'll be about 6 feet high, and it'll completely conform with all of the Borough of Hopatcong zoning sign requirements. The utilities, as I mentioned, there's gas, water, sewer, and electric in the right-of-ways, and they'll be extended to the new buildings. The existing utilities for the existing buildings will remain. All of the existing buildings are connected to the municipal sewer. Building 35 at the corner is connected to the municipal water system, but buildings 33 and 31 are served by a well, which is located in the basement of building number 33. And the applicant intends to maintain that well and continue to provide water service to buildings 31 and 33 using that existing well. In addition to the utilities, we have a stormwater management system designed for this project. Currently, the development, all the water from the development, most of the water from the development drains to the wetland area here in the southeast corner of the property. And this proposal will maintain that current drainage pattern. But in order to ensure that we don't send more water than we're allowed to the wetland area and make sure that we comply with the state and local stormwater regulations, we have a detention and infiltration basin proposed in the northeast corner of the property. And the parking lot is designed, the pavers for the parking lot are designed as permeable pavers. So while it'll look like any normal paver surface you'd see on a driveway, a roadway, or a parking lot, the pavers actually allow water to infiltrate in between the pavers, and so no water runs off of the parking lot. It all infiltrates into the ground. It's held in a stone bed beneath the pavers and then infiltrates into the ground surface. There are a couple of drains in the parking lot located here, and so when there's excess runoff and any overflow from that paver system, it will discharge towards the wetland area. This basin here in the corner is designed for all the roof areas, so all the roof leaders will be piped to that basin instead of just dumping out onto the ground. It'll be held in the basin. Some water will infiltrate into the ground. The rest will be slowly released towards the wetland area in the southeast corner. Now, the drainage and the grading has been designed so that there's no disturbance of the wetlands or the transition area, so no DEP permits are required for this project. Mr. Rushke's office has issued a review letter with several stormwater management comments, and we agree to comply with all of the stormwater management comments in his review letter. And then the last thing I'd like to say is that the Lakeside Boulevard is a county right-of-way, county road, and so we will be required to make an application to the county for site plan approval. We met with the county on site on December 9th and went through the application with them, and we are going to file an application with the county. No new access points are proposed from the property onto Lakeside Boulevard. And then just to kind of sum it up, we do have several variances that are required. And we do have a planner that's here that's going to talk about the variances in more detail, but I'd like to just run through them briefly. We require a use variance for the proposed residential use in the B2 business zone. As we mentioned, there are currently approved residential uses on the property, but expanding that use will require a use variance. We require a variance for more than one principal building where only one principal building is permitted on a lot. And then we require a variance for building separation. If you do have more than one building on a lot, they're required to be separated by 30 feet. The two 5-unit buildings here on the east side are separated by 30 feet, but right in this area here, where the 3-unit building is next to building number 31, that separation is 14.7 feet. So a variance is required for that. Just like to point out that the existing buildings on site are as close as 5 feet apart right in this area. We require a variance for parking spaces in the front yard here at Ryerson Road and Edsel Road, and also a variance for parking space size. Parking spaces are proposed at 9 feet by 18 feet, and the ordinance requires that they be 10 feet by 20 feet. The residential site improvement standards, which governs the parking for the residential uses on site, allows parking spaces at 9 by 18. And usually we only see parking spaces 10 by 20 are needed in shopping centers where you have a shopping cart and you need extra room between the cars. So that's not the case here. The 9 by 18 spaces are typical and appropriate for this use. We require front yard setback variances for both the existing and the proposed buildings. The existing buildings, I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, but we're going to upgrade the exterior of those buildings, including replacing the existing canopies and roof overhangs that are there. Because these buildings are currently within the front yard setback, the replacement of those canopies and roof overhangs requires a front yard setback variance. And then you can see that the proposed buildings are also outside of the front yard setback. This dark black line here are the building setbacks. We have frontage on 3 roads, so we have 3 front yard setbacks, and the buildings are within those front yard setbacks and require variances. We require a variance for no loading space on site. The ordinance requires a loading space for the residential and remaining retail use, but we don't expect any tractor trailers or large trucks delivering anything to this property. The deliveries to the site will just be UPS and FedEx type deliveries, which you see at any residential property, same as would be delivered to the residences to the east. And in this case, they'll pull up in front of the unit they're delivering to, park in the drive aisle behind the parking spaces, make the delivery, be a temporary, quickly make the delivery, and then leave the site. This is common in many multifamily residential developments, but we do require a variance for no loading space. And then finally, we require a variance for building height. This 2-story building on top of the garage will require that building height variance. The garage, there's about an 8-foot elevation difference between Lakeside Boulevard and the parking lot and back, and that's how you access the garage in the back, but it makes it so that the roof of the garage is about the same level as Lakeside Boulevard. So a 2-story addition is going to be built on top of that garage, and if you're standing in Lakeside Boulevard looking at the building, it'll look like a 2-story home. But if you're standing in the back of the parking lot, it'll look like you'll see the 3 stories. It'll look like a home with a walkout basement. The ordinance requires that we calculate building height based on the average grade around the building, and the actual height measured from average grade is 32.5 feet. 35 feet is allowed, so it complies with the height requirement. But because that first floor is more than 6 feet above the average grade, the basement level is considered a story above grade, so technically it's a 3-story building. 2.5 stories allowed, so that requires a variance. And that pretty much sums up what's proposed for the project.
Okay.
Just a few follow-up questions, if I might. You mentioned before about having multiple structures on lots. Is the proposal to consolidate these 4 lots into 1 lot?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, the lot lines will disappear. This will be one large parcel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you talk about the sidewalk on Edsel? I don't recall if you mentioned that or not.
Yeah, currently there's no sidewalk on Edsel Road, and the proposal is to construct curbing to connect our curbing on site to the curbing on Lakeside, and also construct a sidewalk so there'll be a pedestrian connection between our parking lot and the sidewalk on Lakeside.
Okay. On Ryerson, there's no proposed improvement. Is that correct?
Ryerson, there's already curbing between our driveway entrance and Lakeside. And I believe, looking at the old resolutions, it was approved as part of one of the old resolutions for access to the mailbox. To the east of our driveway entrance, we're going to extend curbing onto Ryerson and end it about halfway, a little more than halfway down our property.
Okay. And lastly, you mentioned there's no need for DEP approval. That's because we're staying out of the wetlands and the transition areas. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that really creates that buffer you see on the right-hand side of the screen that's really being largely untouched. Is that correct?
Yes, everything, pretty much the limit between the B1 zone and the R1 zone is about where the transition area is located, and that's where our grading and any land disturbance will end.
Okay. And you mentioned we're on a county road, so it will require Sussex County Planning Board approval, which has not yet been obtained. Is that correct? That's still in process?
That's correct.
Okay. And you see Mr. Rushke's memo?
Yes, I have.
Dated December the 1st. Okay. You mentioned you would comply with the stormwater comments that he has in there. He has some general comments about layout and grading and things like that, utilities and lighting. Any objections to those?
No objection to any of those comments. I do want to mention a couple things in there. On page
Sure.
4, page 4, number 11, it says that proposed landscaping must be in accordance with the Borough Code, section 191-24D and E, or design waivers must be submitted. Generally, we comply with the requirements in that section of the ordinance. However, we may need design waivers for street trees and for 5% of the parking lot being landscaped. So to the extent that we don't fully comply with that ordinance, we would request design waivers for those two items. And then number 16 says the same thing, but about lighting. Lighting must comply with section 191-24C of the code. Generally, we comply with the lighting requirements. However, we may require waivers for the spacing between the light poles and for the minimum illumination levels in the parking lot. I believe will be just below 0.5 foot candles at the center of the parking lot, but we'll provide a point-by-point analysis to Mr. Rushke for him to review to verify whether we need those waivers or not.
Thank you. And just draw your attention to paragraph number 5, which deals with consideration of making improvements on Ryerson, widening the road. That's not part of the proposal. Is that correct?
That is not part of the proposal, no.
Okay. I have no further questions of the witness.
Okay, anybody from the board have questions for this witness?
Just a quick question. Is this part of the second phase of redevelopment?
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Who said yes? Was it you, Ron?
Well, yeah. You're talking about the plan that we're putting together for the redevelopment zone from Landing all the way through Hopatcong?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, how could it be part of the second phase when we don't even have a second phase yet?
We don't. It's part of the planning of it, Albert. It's not there yet, but it's part of the plan that goes from Hopatcong all the way to Landing.
Right.
Ron, I'll just chime in too that these lots will be in the anticipated second phase of that redevelopment plan, but it's
Right.
not in any currently existing plan.
Right.
If that clarifies
Right.
a little bit.
And what are the white dash lines on the drawings?
Oh, let me bring that back up.
I believe they showed the split between R1 and B.
That's correct. The white dashed lines are the limits of the zone. The B2 zone
R1 and okay, I got it.
is on the left and the R1's on the right.
Got it.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board?
My question is, upon a whole bunch of stuff happening here. What is the expectation of completion? Timing-wise?
I think that will depend upon when the approvals are obtained, but the client is anxious to get going, and once he gets the approvals, he'll get his financing and get going. I suspect it may be built somewhat in phases. I think the applicant is intent on finishing out the existing space first, converting those commercial spaces to residential, and then moving on to build the new buildings. Mr. Blaney is here if you want to ask him that question specifically, but
No,
I
I'm
think that's
just-
the general.
Well, you saw Mr. Haggerty's comments on the letter dated December 10th from Dolan and Dolan.
I have seen those. He asked for the COA comments. We'll address those to our planning consultant, John McDonough.
Okay.
The last question was, the application talks about possibly converting one of the last remaining commercial space to residential. That's the
Right.
hair salon. At the moment, that hair salon is a very good business. She's a very good tenant. She's happy to be there, so we don't want to convert that. The applicant's thinking was if she moved out, we get the variance now to transform that space to residential. We understand that if we don't do it within a year, we'd have to come back for an extension of that variance if the board sees fit to give it, or let that variance expire. And that may very well happen because I think that tenant may be there for quite some time.
Okay.
She'll
Thank you.
definitely want to stay there if you put 30-some units in there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Instant business.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Do you want to continue with your test?
Chairman, I do have a couple questions of the engineer I'd like to ask before we move on.
Yes.
Mark, just a couple questions to clarify. When you said you met with Sussex County, will you only be required to apply for a road opening permit, or will this also require Sussex County Planning Board approval?
It will require planning board approval.
Okay, so both entities, the road opening and the planning board. In your meeting with Sussex County, was there any discussion of any improvements along Lakeside Boulevard as part of this project? Did they have any requirements for any improvements on their end that we might want to discuss, or that wasn't discussed at that time?
No, nothing that they mentioned, no.
They didn't mention the traffic lights at all?
No.
Because, I mean, you made a comment that any traffic what do I have written down here? Traffic impact would be minor. But on both Ryerson, on both of those roads, we're looking, any one additional vehicle is more than a minor impact. It's almost impossible to get out onto Lakeside Boulevard from either of those roads.
Yeah, I mean, they'll take a look at the application and they'll take a look at the parking and the traffic, and but at this point they don't have any requirements for any additional improvements on Lakeside.
Okay, Samantha, back to you. Do you have additional?
No problem. Yeah, kind of, along those same lines while we're on traffic. Have you considered what the new trip generation would be from the site, just so, we can kind of have an idea of what the expected number of new vehicles leaving in, say, the morning hours would be?
We haven't fully evaluated that at this time.
Okay.
I mean, there clearly will be an increase, but we haven't formally run any numbers.
And perhaps as part of the county's application, this is something that they may require to, look at those intersections.
I suspect that's correct.
No problem. Regarding Ryerson Road, you said at this time there's no improvements proposed. Have you looked into the feasibility at all? Are there any reasons that you've come to the conclusion that it's not a good idea to make any improvements to that road at this time? Could you just touch upon that?
Well, it's we're certainly not saying it's not a good idea, just that none are proposed at this time. The impacts, so we are going to be improving the curbing or adding some additional curbing on our side. And the impacts to Ryerson Road, because we're directing some of the traffic from the site onto Edsel, will, again, while there is more cars parked on site, the overall impacts or number of cars leaving the site onto Ryerson should be relatively minor. So, because it's not a large impact onto Ryerson Road, we don't have any improvements proposed at this time.
Regarding the lighting, you said that there might be some waivers, design waivers required. We need a little bit of clarification on that. I believe you mentioned that the parking lot will be at or about the 0.5 foot candles. Was that correct?
Yeah, it'll be, we will not exceed the maximum foot candle requirements, but just from the foot candle traces that we provide, it looks like there should be some areas in the center of the parking lot that will be slightly below the 0.5 foot candles. So what we would propose is to prepare a point-by-point analysis and get that to your office so you can take a review and take a look at it and just confirm whether you agree that the lighting is appropriate. But if there are some areas that are below that 0.5 foot candles, then we may require a waiver from that section of the ordinance.
Okay. And, we absolutely want to balance, the other neighboring properties as well. So we don't want the parking lot, lit up, like a Christmas tree or anything like that. So, consideration to backside shields on some of the light fixtures so they don't impact the neighboring properties either behind or on the adjacent streets. While you're doing your point-by-point analysis, I think that, those type improvements should be looked at as well so we don't negatively impact any of the neighbors with a bright fixture.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly take that into consideration. That was our intent in laying out the lights, keep them shielded from the neighbors, but we'll make sure we look at that when we prepare the point-by-point analysis.
Excellent. And one question, and this might be discussed further by another witness, but is it the intent of these properties to be rented or to be sold? And I'm asking from the perspective of the maintenance of the stormwater system. Basically, who is that maintenance going to fall toward? Once we get this design kind of finalized and all our review comments are addressed, who's going to have the overall maintenance to upkeep this basin and the rest of the system?
It'll be the property owner. There's no intent to do a condominium. These are proposed to be rentals. So again, these lots will be consolidated to one parcel with one owner, and that owner is responsible for the maintenance of the site.
Okay, so it'll be a property management association.
Or it could be the owner himself, or he'd hire people to do it. That's right. When it comes back to the owner, he'll be responsible for taking care of all that, and he'll decide how it's best to do that.
Okay, and of course we would ask that that all be outlined within an O&M manual for the stormwater system. That is one of the comments of our letter, but just to have that on record of what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I think that's all my comments for now. So thank you. I appreciate it, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Martha. Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Sam, Sam.
Yeah.
Who does the analysis? This is on sewer, correct?
Yes.
Who does the analysis of capacity? Do we have enough room to put these on?
That is something that we did also include in the letter, that they would have to apply for EDUs. So that would be evaluated at that time. When John and I had discussed this with Mark, was that earlier this week or last week? We do believe initially that there won't be a capacity issue.
Okay.
But we will get those numbers and finalize that. But good point to bring up. Thanks, Ron.
Okay.
Samantha, when you have multiple units like that, how does that work with the sewer assessment? Is that one unit per assessment? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, it's an assignment of the EDUs. I believe it's going to depend on the size of the units, how many bedrooms, if I'm not mistaken. If it's a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, that will determine how many EDU stands for equivalent dwelling units, would be required by the entire development. And then they'll look from the EDU, they'll go back to capacity and see if there's enough within the system.
And do we have a breakdown of the number of bedrooms per unit?
The architect can go through that for you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, back to you, Mr. Melmont.
Is it your pleasure to go to the public for each witness, or wait till the end when the witnesses are all done?
Wait till the end.
Okay, terrific. Then thank you, Mr. Migliano. We'll call Ryan Devaney, please. He's our architect.
Thank you.
Ryan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. All right. Hi, everyone.
Hey there.
Mr. Devaney,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I received my license in March of 2019.
Okay, and it is current.
It is current. It's active.
Thank you.
And you're familiar with the site and prepared some of the plans on file with the board, is that correct?
Yes, I've prepared several buildings for this project. I prepared architectural drawings for the exterior repairs and improvements for 35 Lakeside Boulevard, the commercial to residential conversion for 33 Lakeside Boulevard, and the new townhouse on the existing garage for 31 Lakeside Boulevard. Also, I prepared an Exhibit A1 drawing that shows an elevation of the entire block, showing all the buildings side by side.
Hello?
Oh, what's going on?
Yep, I'm back. I'm sorry. I must be having some internet issues.
Okay.
Could we put up the architectural exhibits, please? Those that show the existing buildings along the street frontage? And Mr. Devaney can testify to what's going on with those.
This would be
Right, so Mark,
Really?
A3.
Okay, so
Yes, Mr. Devaney,
I can go over all the
if you
buildings.
can go from left to right, just tell us what each building is, and maybe you can then go through with the proposed improvements for each.
Okay, so building number 35 is the cut above hair salon building. This building contains 6 residential units and 1 commercial unit, which is the hair salon. There are 3 one-bedroom apartments and 3 two-bedroom apartments. The building is fairly simple with a dark gray vinyl siding and white trim. There is existing signage on the lower roof that will be removed. Next door is building number 33. It's the Psychic
Can I just go
Solutions
back to
and
30?
Limo
Can I go back to 35 for a second, Ryan? There is some work that's being
Yes.
done on 35 that has to be completed. We're wrapping the awning around the left side as you're looking at the building. Is that correct?
That is correct. The only item that needs to be completed is the awning on the left-hand side. The awning on the front and the right have already been constructed.
Okay, and then this building has been previously improved, new clapboards, new windows, et cetera. It's pretty much, ready to go with a couple of minor required additions. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that is correct. This building had been hit by a car last year, and Ken had hired me to just redo the entire exterior on the front. So we got rid of the larger windows that used to be there, and we put in smaller windows so that in the future it can be converted to residential use.
But in this building is where the hair salon is, the lone remaining commercial use in the event this application is approved. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Then please move on.
Okay, so next door to 35 is building number 33. It's currently a Psychic Solutions and a Limo company. It contains 2 residential units and 2 commercial units. The facade is simple with large windows, red doors, and a light gray pediment. Existing signage on the pediment will be removed. Okay, so next door to that, building number 31 contains 2 residential units.
Ryan, just back up 1 second. So what other improvements are happening to 31 or 33? I'm sorry. Aren't you changing the clapboards and dressing it up to kind of be consistent with 35?
Yes, exactly. We're converting it from commercial to residential use. So we're removing the large storefront windows. We're fixing up the facade. We're going to be installing smaller residential style windows. And we'll be installing new awnings for both of the units. The awnings will be similar to the awning at 35 Lakeside Boulevard. It's the same dimension, so the buildings will match.
And are you working only on the outside or the inside as well?
The outside and the inside are doing a full renovation of the building.
Okay, then how many apartments are going to be in that building?
We're converting the 2 commercial spaces into 2 apartments. One of the apartments will be a 2-bedroom, the other will be a 1-bedroom.
Okay.
And there was already 2 existing residential units that we are not currently working on.
And how many bedrooms in each of those?
In the 2 existing, let's see. Actually, I don't have the number of bedrooms in the other units.
All right.
Why don't you go on to 31?
Okay, so building 31 contains 2 residential units and 1 commercial unit. Adjacent to the basement level is a 1.5 car garage. This building has a residential appearance with 2 sets of windows with black shutters. And that garage is where we're going to be constructing the new 2-story townhouse. 1 unit, 2-story townhouse that you can see in the center of the drawing. So that townhouse is going to match the new townhouses at 29 Lakeside. They're very similar, same floor plan.
And this is the building that requires a height variance because it appears to be a 3-story structure from the rear. Is that fair to say?
Exactly, yes. From Lakeside Boulevard, it appears to be a 2-story building, but once you're in the back, it appears to be a 3-story building, and that's why we need the height variance. But it's still under 35 feet.
Okay. And this building, like 35 and 33, will also be similar colors, similar design scheme, so it sort of matches the streetscape?
Yes, that is correct. All of the buildings on the block are going to match.
Okay.
Similar color siding. They all have the stacked stone veneer at the bottom, which provides, a pretty classy look. And yeah, all the buildings are going to match, and I think it's going to be a great development for this town.
And so the balance of 31, the right-hand side, if you will, that's also just being dressed up, but it's not being expanded. It's going to stay as it is, but it's going to be improved in terms of its appearance.
That's correct. We're not doing anything on the interior of this building. We're just going to fix up the existing facade.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, your question before about the existing apartments in 31, I think they're both the existing 2-bedroom units, the ones that are there today. They're both 2-bedroom.
Okay.
All right, the building on the far right, our next witness will talk about because he's responsible for that. But Ryan, what about do we have floor plans for these buildings?
Floor plans for
Mark,
which buildings?
The existing buildings. Mark, do you have that exhibit, just the existing floor plans and proposed floor plans?
That'd be A4.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Good for A4. It's a plan that's on file with the board, but this is colored up, so why don't we just mark it as A4? So, Ryan, just walk us through this. You've already talked about the conversions inside. Just sort of show us and talk about exactly what's going on inside these buildings.
Okay, so for 33 Lakeside Boulevard, we're converting the 2 commercial spaces into 2 new units. So, as you can see, we're doing a gut renovation. So we're taking out several partitions in both of the units. We're going to be providing new partitions and new finishes throughout the spaces for both units. So for Unit B, the unit on the left, once you enter, it's an open floor plan. There's a open living and dining area. There will be a new kitchen on the right-hand side of the floor plan. And there will be 2 bedrooms for this unit. So there will be a larger bedroom in the rear, and then there will be a bedroom closer towards the kitchen. And there will be 1 full bath between the 2 bedrooms. For Unit A, the unit on the right, this unit also has an open floor plan. There is a dining area on the left, living area on the right, and then there is a kitchen. And all 3 of those spaces are open. There will be a new full bath in the rear of the unit, and the bedroom will be located in the back right-hand side. So that's basically what we're doing with the floor plan for both of these units.
Terrific. I have no further questions of witness. Any questions from the board?
From the board, anybody?
Is he going to talk about the new buildings in the back?
Our next witness will talk about the 3 new buildings.
Okay.
Okay, I'm here. Hi, I'm Bob Mazzola, and we've decided to do.
Bob, hold on. Bob,
Okay.
Bob, relax. Just wait to be called, please.
Okay,
There
sorry.
may be questions of Ryan.
Are there any other questions from the board for Mr. Devaney?
No.
Anybody from the board? No? Okay. Mr. Melmont, you can
All right,
move
then
on to Mazzola if you'd like.
I'll call Mr. Mazzola, who's already been sworn.
Okay, hi,
Mr.
I'm Bob
Mazzola?
Mazzola.
Yeah, just tell us, if you will, who you're employed by and what your position is, please.
I'm the owner of Atrium Development. It's a modular construction company. I've been in the business since 1982, constructing modular homes basically in northern Jersey. We actually put a few of them in Hopatcong and surrounding towns. The reason we've kind of decided to go modular is that it's it's going to reduce the construction time and of course the number of vehicles coming into the site and surrounding areas. The 3 buildings that are going in, they're going to be nicely appointed, and the siding is going to match the other buildings. The 5-unit building is going to be, they're all 2 bedrooms.
Bob, did we get the exhibit up? I mean, Mark, can you get that up so we can start to show the board what Bob is referring to?
VA5?
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, that's the 5-unit.
And
So-
this is just for the record, this is a plan that's already on file with the board. It has not been changed, but we can still mark it as A5 if you'd like.
Yeah, this particular building has 5 apartments. They're all 2 bedrooms. There's 3 on no, if you go down, yeah, that's it right there. There's 2 of them on the first floor and 2 on the second floor, and the one on the right is like sort of like a townhouse unit. The 4 units are approximately 794 square feet, and the larger one is about 1320 square feet. They're all, as I said, they're all 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, and that's the siding is going to be vinyl siding. The exterior is going to have nice shutters, architectural shingles. We're going to try and make it really a nice looking building.
Are they multi-floor, 2-story building?
Yeah, 2 stories. In this particular building, the one with the door on the left, there's 2 apartments on the first floor. If you go back to the floor plan, you can see it.
Okay.
Okay, that's the first floor. You'll see this kind of like mirrored. There's a living room on each side, and then
Now, with some other buildings in town, we ran into a problem with ADA requirements. Do we have a similar problem here?
That's up to I think Ryan to answer that. I mean,
Okay.
as far as the ADA requirements.
I noticed that the roof on these buildings are the apartments on the second floor having access to a space above their ceiling, or is that just going to be dead space?
No, it's going to be storage space above every apartment. There's a firewall between each particular apartment, there's individual HVAC units in each apartment.
And how will they get up there? Like a pull-down ladder or what?
No, it's going to be a hatch. I don't think they want the tenants to really, start going into the attic. So it is accessible through like an attic hatch in the hallway, or in the apartment, in each apartment. And the first floor apartments will have the furnace will be in these particular buildings are crawl spaces. The 3-unit building will have a full basement. They're going to be heat pumps. No, everything is electric, heat and air. Heat pumps.
The roof area, is that a modular build or is that a stick built on the roof?
No, everything is going to be modular. The roof is when the modulars come in, the roof is like laying down and it's lifted up with the crane lifts it up. So it comes in as one piece. The 4 units are one section, and then the other unit is is a separate module.
Okay, so the common wall to the same unit, you're gonna have 2 walls up there or 1 wall? Up in the attic.
Up in the attic, there'll be a wall
Along the
separating.
ridge.
Yes, separating each unit. There'll be 2 firewalls in the attic, separating each unit. Yeah, there they are, right there. So, can you see my mouse? No.
No.
No, I'm the one that's got it under control.
You've talked about the 5-unit building. The three apartment building is basically the same design. Are these all townhouses?
Yeah, these are townhouses. Each apartment is a 2-story. If you go to can you get to the floor plan?
And this is the building facing the street, is that correct?
Right.
So tell us about this building.
Okay, these are 3 identical apartments. As you can see, there's a living room, dining room, kitchen on the first floor, and each one and a half a bath. And then there's a staircase going up to the second floor, and there's 2 bedrooms and a bath. And you can see that little box opposite the shower. That's the attic access. If you have to get into the attic to service the furnace that's up there. Well, it's actually not going to be a furnace. It's going to be a heat pump system.
And this building will be the same finishes as the other buildings?
Yep, same finishes, yes. This building will have a full basement. If you go to the rear elevation, it'll be a full basement.
Yeah, and that basement will walk out to the parking lot in the back.
And we have not marked these. These are the exact same plans on file with the board. There were no changes made to them. Is that right, Bob?
Right, exactly. And the single-story building, the walkout that we were talking about before, that one in the rear, that's going to be a laundry area.
Yeah, the building on top of the garage, correct?
Yeah, the garage area is going to be converted into a laundry room for all the units. So maybe 3 washer dryers.
Yeah, I think I have this is what that one will look like from the back.
Yeah, exactly right.
And this was submitted to the board as well.
So basically, the new 2-story structure is being installed on top of the existing garage, and the garage is being converted to a laundry room.
Right. It's basically it's a poured concrete foundation with steel beams going all I think every 7 feet going across. So it's been checked out.
Very sturdy. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Mazzola?
What does type VA construction mean?
Type VA, where is that? I don't see that.
It's on the, looking at one of the plans, I guess, for the 5-unit.
I saw
Type
that.
VA construction.
Oh, 5A. I think it's at 5A.
Can you blow that up, Mark?
Okay, possibly. What's 5A construction?
5A construction generally refers to a building that's more than 2 stories. It's more than a multifamily. It has some additional fire codes and so forth. That's a 5A construction.
These buildings aren't sprinkled, right?
I think they're going to be sprinkled, yeah.
You mentioned that you would put other modular homes in Hopatcong. Can you tell us where there might be some?
Well, I'd have to go look up the addresses. I don't remember the addresses offhand, but I can give you some addresses.
Okay.
But they would have been single family, correct?
They're all single families. They're smaller homes.
How long have you done multifamily?
Well, I've been doing multifamily in conjunction with the single family. Mainly 2 families. I've done some 8 families, storefronts, some commercial, but mostly all residential and mostly all single families.
Where are they manufactured?
Well, for the first 25 years, I was working with a company called Penn Lion Homes, and in 2010, they closed the factory with the financial crisis that the factory closed. And for the last 10 years, I've been working with a company called Simplex Homes out of Scranton, Pennsylvania. They're the manufacturer.
Is the laundry area in the garage for all the residential units and the whole project? Is that how that's set up?
I have to talk to Ken about that. I understand that the laundry area is, I don't know if it's going to be for the entire project or just these new units.
Yeah, no, I think the laundry area is going to be for all the residents in all the buildings.
Okay.
Okay. Just wondering. Okay.
The new building that's 3 units, the one that has frontage on Lakeside Boulevard, that has a walkout basement. Is that
Yes.
basement levels shown in the architectural plans, or
Yeah, it's
what's
shown
gonna,
in the back. Yeah, if you flip to that,
but is
that
there
slide.
a floor plan for that level? Like
It's just
what's
gonna-
gonna be in that basement?
It's just gonna be one big basement room, that's
Just
it.
one big open,
Yeah, there it is.
space.
There's the door and you can walk in, it's
Okay.
one big area.
but there's, yeah, I don't think there's a floor plan, but just,
Just
get
a
that on the
typical-
record. So it's just gonna be
a
one
base-
large finished room or unfinished?
No,
room?
it's unfinished.
Unfinished. Full height ceilings though?
It'll be full height, yeah.
So that's one under each unit.
Under each unit, yep. And there'll be a
Dividing
firewall.
wall?
There'll be a
between-
firewall between each unit.
Okay. Is that masonry or,
Well, if you're familiar with superior walls, all the foundations are going to be superior walls. And if you've seen superior walls, they usually have concrete studs and there's insulation, but they can make a solid wall. So the walls between the units will be solid walls. In other words, there'll be concrete on both sides.
And I just want to clarify on the laundry facilities. There's already laundry facilities in building number 35, which is the one at the corner of Ryerson and Lakeside. So this will be an additional laundry area for all the residents.
so that won't be an elective in the units then? People won't have the elective to get a washer dryer?
There'll be no washer and dryers in the units.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, Alan, I have one.
Yeah.
It's with regards to the traffic impacts. I think both the statements from the engineer and the board were a bit subjective. I think it'd be good to have some sort of factual data to make sure that we are not impacting it. I mean, I trust that statement's true. I don't think there's gonna be that much additional traffic added, but we should have something to back that statement up.
Yep.
What's the net gain between loss of business spaces and gain of residential spaces? What's that net calculation? How many cars?
But I think I just want to chime in 1 second there, Bob. I think that we should also look at capacity of the roadway, which should be easy. Which should be easy to look up what a residential capacity should be for a road that size. I mean, if I can tell you that the amount of cars is probably higher than most people think, but we should have data to back that up.
Yeah, we're also going to have to look at the impact to the school district. That's why I was asking about the number of bedrooms in each unit.
Well, Lord knows we can use more students.
That's right.
Just a comment on the laundry. I understand 35 has laundry in it already. Unit 35.
Hey, Justin, are you talking about the traffic capacity on the Borough Street or the county road?
No, I'm saying the roads that are directly impacted, the Ryerson and Edsel roads, because that's where the traffic discharges from this property. And so when you look at the capacity, you should be finding something that tells you that, a two-lane highway or a two-lane residential road of certain width with turns permitted has so many vehicles per hour allowed.
Okay. So we got a residential area going on to that two-way road on the county road. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Right, and just to add to that, Justin, also that, consideration should be given to the fact that these roads, both Ryerson and Edsel, might be substandard in width. If those capacities take into consideration a 24 or 30-foot standard width, these roads might be substandard.
And Sam, can that be taken by a variance or some sort?
One of the comments in our letter and that I had asked Mark about was to, look at improvements to these roadways in order to increase the width at curbs, sidewalks, to get them closer in compliance to the RSIS standards. He said they have looked at that and they have no intent to make any changes, at least to Ryerson. They are adding sidewalk and some curbing on Ryerson, but no roadway width additions, no sidewalk on the southern Edsel. They are adding curbing and sidewalk, but no roadway width improvements are proposed at this time. Again, perhaps Mark could look into whether the roads are substandard and by how much. If they're supposed to be 24 feet, are we looking at 23.5 feet, or are they 16 feet wide?
Right.
What level of but that just might have an impact on that kind of capacity to handle more vehicular traffic that Justin was speaking to.
Okay. Mr. Malmont, do you want Mr. McDonough to testify now?
If the board's willing to continue, we'd like to call Mr. McDonough and have him offer planning testimony.
Okay. Let's hear about his credentials first, if we could.
Sure, Johnny, you there?
I'm here. Can you see me way up top there, Tom? You're way on the bottom on my
There you
screen.
go. Depends on what screen you're looking at.
Exactly. So, John, why don't you give us your qualifications, please, your background?
Sure. Hi again, everyone. John McDonough for the record. I'm a licensed professional planner here in the state of New Jersey. That license is currently active and in good standing. I am also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, which is a national certification. I testify in the capacity of a planner on a nightly basis throughout the state of New Jersey. I am almost certain I've been here before, but I do testify on a regular basis, on a nightly basis, again throughout the state.
Okay,
thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're familiar with this property in the application?
Thoroughly, yes.
Terrific. Now, you have a number of exhibits, John. Why don't we get those up, and I'll have you kind of walk through existing conditions, talk about the variances that we've heard about tonight, and then go into the reasons why we believe the board should grant the required relief.
Okay. So we submitted a packet of exhibits to...
You should definitely mark this. I mean, I think we're up to A4 is the last number that I had.
Yes.
So why don't we mark this all as A5 and just call A5 the planner's exhibit, but this is multiple sheets, correct?
Okay, sure.
all good plans get altered. We started at A2, but we will remark this as A5 for the town files. And what it's going to be is a 12...
I'm sorry, go ahead. Continue, please.
No problem. It is going to be a 12-part exhibit, a series of, I'll say, simple slides in the beginning that work up to more detail. Again, just to help the board with orientation and establish the condition of the site, the context of the site, the surrounding land use characteristic, and why I believe this site is particularly suited for the use that's before you now. So we'll start with the very basic on, did we say A5, Tom? This is A5 here?
A5, yes.
A5, okay. I'll keep coming back to that. So A5, sheet number 1 is a simple tax parcel map. It shows we're dealing with 4 tax parcels, which, as you've heard, are going to be consolidated into one unified development. Lot number 6, lot number 7, lot number 8, lot number 9, all in block 10707 with triple frontage. That's important because it does create a front setback issue that creates somewhat of a difficulty in terms of meeting the requirement for setback, and the applicant does need some setback relief, both with respect to existing condition along Lakeside and some of the newer development as well on the side streets, which we'll talk about. Importantly, we're talking about a very large lot here. In aggregate, this assemblage of lots equates to approximately 1.6 acres. It is already developed, as we see in slide number 2, with mixed-use development, which is exactly what the applicant is proposing to continue here. You can see the nice clustering of buildings here in the upper left-hand corner at the intersection of Lakeside and Ryerson. Under current conditions, we're looking at 10 dwelling units and 1,932 square feet of retail. We've got this parking lot in the back. We've got some good buffering in the rear as well. And as you've heard, what the applicant essentially is looking to do is sort of complete the puzzle here with one integrated development, filling the voids with new buildings, new development that will frame the parking lot. The building masses become the buffer, if you will, that will shield the active land use, which is the parking lot, the open air surface lot, from the adjacent residents, which I'll say are sensitive receptors further to the east down Ryerson Road. And as you know, this is a development and a terrain that steps down topographically from Lakeside. So this is going to be a nice little pocket development, very nice privacy, very conducive to residential use given the way it's set back off of Lakeside Boulevard. Next frame here shows why this site is well suited for what I'll call a transitional land use of mixed use. It is effectively a blend of the land use categories that are around it. Everything you see in red is non-residential or classified under our Mod 4 land use classification system as non-residential. And then the gold areas or the yellow areas are residential. So we're effectively at this confluence of the gold and the red, and that's why mixed use makes good planning sense here. We've also got the green in the back, which does have a nice buffering effect as well. On the one lot, the buffer will be fully intact. On the other, it will be substantially intact and enhanced. And then, of course, there will be some stormwater management as well worked into the mix. Next frame shows the zoning and the reason why we're here. The property is predominantly within the B2 business district where residential is not permitted. Residential, of course, is already there, and that becomes the, I'll say, the core foundation for the planning proofs behind this application. And then a portion is in the residential R1 district as well. That lot in the back is going to remain fully intact as part of the development before you. So no development per se associated with lot number 1. So here's what I saw when I went on the property about 2 weeks ago, December 4th, standing on Ryerson Road. The homes would be behind me. The subject development is in the front of me, so I'm looking back at Lakeside Boulevard. This would be the back of the dwellings and the buildings that are presently there. Starting from the left, working our way to the right. We've got all the way to the left is building number 31, which, as you've heard, will have 2 units, a 1-bedroom unit and a 3-bedroom unit. And we'll come back to this, but one of the units are going to be designated for affordable housing. That'll be a 1-bedroom unit on the basement there. Next building, building number 33 is, I'll call it the middle building, is going to be targeted for 4 dwelling units. We've got 1 1-bedroom unit. We've got 3 2-bedroom units. And of course, as you've heard through Ryan's testimony, these are all going to be renovated, upgraded to, again, integrate as one integrated whole on this site. Shifting all the way to the right, we're now looking at building number 35, which is the corner building. We've got 6 units in there, 3 1-bedroom units, 3 2-bedroom units. We're looking at retrofitting this for 2 affordable units as well, and then preserving that retail use, that 750 square foot retail use as well. The garage, which is sort of hidden from this vantage point here, is this lower 1-story building between 31 and 33. I've got a better shot of that coming up. But again, this is going to be infilled with a new townhouse unit, that 2-story townhouse unit, which is actually going to be a copycat of the townhouse unit that will be integrated as an end cap to the new buildings that will be in this grassy area that you see in the foreground, and then of course the grassy area that would be to the left as well. So here's a closer up of buildings 31 to the left and building 33 in the middle. You get a closer sense of the garage that is going to be infill with this 2-story townhouse unit. And that's, interestingly, the one that needs not really a height variance, the height complies, but a story variance for 3 stories, whereas 2.5 is the maximum allowed. That's a C variance, that's not a D variance. So in that regard, we're not looking for additional relief. And as you've heard, the justification is really that the actual height is going to comply with your 35-foot height maximum allowance. So again, building 31 on the left, building 33 in the middle. The one on the left is the one that's going to be retrofit with a COA unit at the basement level. Panning over to the right, we're now looking at the corner. This is building number 35, which is going to have those 6 units, 2 of which will be retrofit as income restricted units or affordable units. You get a glimpse to the right here of the beige building, I'll say, which is the new construction that Mr. Malman referenced at the outset and had Mark, our engineer, point to on his original layout plan. That is new multifamily housing that has manifested right along Lakeside. So there's certainly neighborhood compatibility here in terms of what the
Smile House. Smile?
Can you see me?
Is that the Smile House?
Oh, I thought you were asking me to smile.
No,
Uh,
you're doing that
is-
already.
It is I believe this is specialized housing here, yes.
Yes,
I don't know
okay.
the name of the house that it is. It is some
That
type
is,
of.
that is the Smile project.
Smile.
That's correct.
That is, yes.
Thank you for that. I'll keep smiling as well.
Okay,
Here's a closer view of the Smiles house. This is looking from the back side, and this is looking from the front side. Again, very nice appearance on Lakeside, and the applicant is essentially continuing that theme and providing a nice complement to what you presently see there. So to the left would be the Smiles development. To the right is building number 5. This is the one, 35. This is the one on the corner of Ryerson and Lakeside. The one that presently has the salon, which is going to be preserved as part of the application. And then again, the 6 units that are going in this particular building. And by the way, there's this nice little courtyard area, which is going to remain intact as part of the development proposal. And then, of course, starting to pan to the right as well, you get a glimpse of building number 33 and 31. And again, those are going to be modernized, increased, and renovated to provide for a nice roadside appearance in the public realm along Lakeside. So again, the key point here is this is going to sort of complete an unfinished development. Looking at the bottom there, we've got the parking lot sitting there, the active land use with direct exposure to the dwellings that would be to our east. We're looking to put building masses that would frame this development and sort of create this centralized court concept, serving both the renovated buildings to the right and the newer construction to the left. So with that, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to see if I can find Mark's exhibit. If I can't, I'll ask Mark to put it up there on the screen. But again, just to remind the board of
Which exhibit do you want, John?
the one, I have it right here, Mark, your colorized exhibit. Coming up on my screen now.
Oh, just the color rendered site plan.
Yep. So I just want to help the board understand the relief that the applicant is seeking.
Mark, can you put that? There we go.
There you go. Sorry for the delay. I had to switch out and switch back. But generally speaking, we're here in the B2 district, except for lot number 9, which we're going to just hold off on for the time being because that is not really being touched. The primary relief that the applicant is seeking is D1 use relief to allow for multifamily and mixed-use development, which is not a permitted use in the B2 zone. There is, I'll say, subsidiary or interrelated C relief, which is listed very well in Mr. Rushke's report. I'll go through it, but I think when you see as I dissect the C relief, that it is really not substantial, and each one of those C variances make good planning sense. But the core relief that the applicant is seeking here is the D1. We've run it through the 4 parts of the Medici test and find that all 4 parts pass. Number 1, the element of proof requiring site suitability, or that the site is particularly suitable. That aspect is passed based on the testimony on the record here. The site is particularly suited for this use based on its current condition and the fact that there is residential there now. This is simply continuing the theme of what has established and manifest on the site presently. Again, just showing and emphasizing the fact that we do have this very good framing effect by the building masses that are being pulled into play. The site is also particularly suitable based on its context. We've got new residential immediately adjacent, so this is continuing a theme that has established along this particular stretch of Lakeside. As I said, this is an effective land use transition from the commercial uses on the top of the hill to the residential uses on the bottom of the hill. This step down of commercial to multifamily residential to detached residential is a very logical planning progression. It's exactly what the applicant is doing here. It does have that distinctive terrain, which lends itself very well to good privacy for all of the residential uses that will be associated with this lower level of the site. The site, as I said, is substantially oversized. It is more than 3 times the zoning, and it has these good pockets to accommodate this infill development. I really like the fact that the applicant is breaking up the massing here and has chosen not to put in one massive building with parking underneath. I think this better integrates and relates to the surrounding neighborhood and really, again, completes the overall puzzle and completes the overall development with very nicely fitted pieces here. Second part of the Medici test looks at special reasons, and this moves us away from the characteristics of the land to the nexus with the land use law, and we look at all of those fundamental purposes of zoning in the law, which is the reason why we zone in the first place. Nothing violative of any of those purposes of zoning, but substantially advancing several purposes, particularly promoting the public good with new housing stock and the inherent benefit of affordable housing, which is of paramount public importance. The project will promote positive aesthetics. We've heard through Ryan's testimony about the care and the sensitivity that the applicant has given to the look and the feel of this development. Other improvements, as you've heard through Mark's testimony, are going to include the ADA upgrades to the site, new lighting, new landscaping, new drainage, new pavement, all modernizing this long-established development along this particular stretch of the roadway. Project is going to promote the planning goals for compact development, efficient land use, and a variety of housing choices to serve the needs of all New Jersey citizens. All of the above promote purposes of the land use law, but especially purpose A, purpose G, purpose I, and purpose M. Third part of the test focuses on the impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, and based on all of the evidence on the record, the relief can be granted here without creating any substantially adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. No impacts of a substantially adverse nature are left at this point as unaddressed or unmitigated. The clear testimony on the record is that the site will function safely and efficiently. This project has a very nice, I'll say, felt balance to it, with the parking in the middle. I'll say the double-loaded service court servicing both sides, and again, a very well-planned, well-organized layout. The development is certainly compatible with the characteristic of the area, and as I keep reinforcing, we do have that new residential adjacent. Finally, the last part of the Medici test looks not at the established neighborhood pattern, but the vision of the neighborhood, or compatibility, substantial consistency with the intent of the master plan. For all of the reasons that I've given, I believe that use relief can be granted without substantially eroding the integrity of the zone plan here. Relief relates to a very distinct piece of property. It is a small portion of the overall B2 zone district, so this does not erode the integrity of the district, and certainly recognizes that this mixed-use characteristic has already manifested here. Key zoning controls are met, the parking is met, the overall lot coverage is met, the green space is met, the setbacks are met. So there is substantial zoning conformance in terms of the form of the development that the applicant is proposing. The core purposes of your master plan are met in terms of neighborhood stability, overall viability, and orderly community growth and development. With that, we move down to the lower level C relief, finding that all four parts of the Medici test are met. We fold all of the bulk relief into the positive aspects that were advanced as part of the use relief. This is justified under the flexible C balancing test, whereby the benefits of the application as a whole substantially outweigh the detriments. On the positive side, all of the bulk relief that the applicant is seeking are necessary to effectuate this very beneficial project. And as I run through each one very quickly here, I think you'll see that the relief does not create any substantially detrimental impacts. The number of buildings, more than one, is an existing condition, and as I said before, multiple buildings is better than one massive building at this particular location. The relief for the number of building stories related only to that one infill garage building, 3 stories versus 2.5, creates this nice townhouse unit that is repeated as end caps in the newer buildings as well. The building separation of 14.7 feet versus 30 feet only relates to this little pinch point of the newer building on the corner and the existing building, number 31. That said, Again, it does open up on the roadside and is certainly not out of character with the building-to-building separation that we see elsewhere in the development. The building setback is less than 50 feet, but that is really a function of the triple frontage of the site. This will blend well, again, with the character of the neighborhood. You can see from the aerial photograph that we do have other developments nearby where the buildings are much closer to the street. So these buildings are not going to stand out and I'll say bite at somebody coming by out of any character different than what we see in the surrounding area. The parking location in the front yard as well plays off the existing lot. There are a few parking spaces on either side that would extend into the front yard, but we do have these end caps, these landscape islands that will soften and mitigate that and present a nice appearance in the public realm. Lastly, we have parking stall sizes, which really falls back on Mark's justification that this does meet RSIS under 9/18. The wider spaces here, the longer spaces are not necessary, but that would be more typical of a commercial use. And then finally, the relief related to the loading space also is reasonable and appropriate. This is going to be typical parcel post deliveries, not big tractor trailer deliveries. And certainly the layout here is adequate to accommodate that. All said, and in summary, this is a very well-planned project. The overall community impact from a planning standpoint will be very positive. The statutory tests for grant of all relief are met. And just again, to underscore the importance here, the applicant is going to provide for a 15% set aside of affordable housing for the newer construction, the new 16 units that are coming online here above and beyond that which presently exists. So the applicant has met the court guidelines as well in terms of that 15% set aside. With that, I'll pause for any questions on redirect or cross.
I have no further questions. Board members?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. You mentioned ADA, and I don't have the plans in front of me, but I don't see any handicapped parking spots.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure they're there, and I'm going to roll that one right back to Mark because I know handicap is part of the plan here.
Okay, and what about? I mean, we have a place over near River Styx where we had some buildings put up which had apartments or townhouses, whatever you want to call them. And we ran into a problem with ADA requirements that you had to have at least one unit which was ADA compatible. Do we have a similar problem here?
I would think, Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to throw something back up on the screen. I'm not the architect, but I would think that newer unit, that's going to be the lower unit on building number 31, certainly is flush and has accessibility. Is certainly, I'll say, ADA adaptable, which I think is a requirement anyhow under the building code, that it is adaptable for use by a handicapped person. I'm going to have to defer to an architect because I'm really getting out of my line of testimony, but I would think from a practical planning standpoint, that lower unit or the one over 35 is certainly ADA adaptable.
Well, and you mentioned that there are going to be certain units set aside for affordable housing.
That is correct.
How many units and where are they?
Okay, thank you for that. So I can go back to the larger plan, but just to help the board with orientation, this lower unit over at building number 31 will be set aside as income restricted for affordable housing.
Now that's the one that you said could be ADA compatible.
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct. I would think any one of these units actually could be ADA adaptable. I think there's a difference between adaptable and accessible. I think the requirement is adaptable, Mr. Chairman, but again, that's more building code and architecture.
I think it has to be.
I think so.
Not can go to, but has to be from the onset.
That's right.
That's what we dealt with on River Styx.
Okay. Again, from a practical standpoint, these units are flush with the parking, so I would think that's, from a practical standpoint, can be accommodated here. And then I'm flipping over to building number 35, which is the one on the corner, and my notes have here that there are going to be 2 units in the lower level, and one is a 1-bedroom and one is a 2-bedroom. So there will be a total of 3 affordable units. Divide that by 16 new units overall, or 16 unit increase. That comes out to 15% plus. It's more than 15% above, or more than 15% in terms of a set aside, which meets the court guidelines for affordable housing.
Well, I'm not sure the court has any guidelines, right? That's another story.
That's why I was careful to say guidelines.
Yeah. Okay, that answers my questions. But let me pull Samantha in. Sam, do you know anything about the ADA that I've been referring to and that Bob Duncan has been referring to?
Yeah, I believe it would have to apply to the new construction.
Just the new construction.
Not 100% certain, but pretty confident that that would be applicable to the new construction. And I'm almost certain, I mean, I believe the architect could testify better to this, but it looks like 4 of the proposed units are at ground level. The apartment style ones, you have, when you walk in, you have 1 unit on the left, 1 unit on the right in 2 separate buildings. So for a total of 4 units at ground level, those I'm sure could be built to be ADA accessible.
Right.
So, it looks like from the preliminary drawings that wouldn't be a problem, and you might even have quite a few that can meet that standard.
Right, but at least one would have to be ADA accessible immediately.
Correct.
And that would have to have associated parking close by.
Yes, and there is ADA parking proposed, and it's pretty much in the center of the development. So if that needed to be shifted over, that wouldn't be a huge concern at all. If we wanted it to be closer to a door or a certain building, it's right now it looks like how it's laid out. It's just dead center of the parking lot.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, if we could put the site plan up, which shows the ADA parking spaces. Mark, can you take care of that?
Sure. The ADA parking spaces are right here in the center of the parking lot.
I'd say, yep.
And the ground floor apartments in the 2 5-unit buildings can be ADA accessible.
So how many handicapped spaces do you have? 3?
We have 3 handicapped spaces. We have 2 here in the center and 1 here near the existing building number 35. But as Samantha mentioned, those can be relocated depending on where the ADA accessible units end up.
Okay, my question before was what is the net need for parking when you discount what's leaving as commercial and those requirements, what's being added residential in the existing buildings, and what's being added residential in the new buildings and the 2-story over the garage? What's the net number of spaces that are required, and what's that proportion with the handicap?
We are required to have 58 parking spaces with the additional residential units. And for a parking lot with 58 spaces, you're required to have 3 handicap accessible spaces, 1 of which has to be van accessible. And we comply with that requirement.
That's the overall entire project area, 58.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the planner said that there was not much impact to the residential. I go back to John's question with the impact on the traffic. That does have some impact there, and it's not negligible. It is substantial.
Well, we're adding 26 parking spaces, so conceivably there would be 26 additional cars. Right now, all of the cars go out onto Ryerson Road. If you add those additional cars, they're going to be spread out between the 2 roadways. So if you have in the end, if each road gets used evenly, there could be no new cars on Ryerson Road beyond what's there today. And there could be somewhere between 13 or 26, somewhere in there, additional cars exiting onto Edsel Road. And that's just based on the parking count. It's a rough estimate. But, if you look at it in terms of rush hour traffic in the morning, 2-hour period in the morning, if you have 13 cars on each road, spread out over those 2 hours, I think it would be something like 1 car every 10 minutes, which, I understand that there are potentially existing traffic concerns on those roads, but 1 car every 10 minutes compared to what the traffic is on those roads would be considered a minor impact.
Now, I don't live in that area, but I have friends in that area, and that Edsel does back up quite a bit. And that's the easier street to get out of than the other one. So it does have something to be considered as part of this application.
Okay, anything else from the board?
I just a simple question. The building in the center that's just 2 stories that has the 2 different that is now what the psychiatric was it what is it, building number 33?
33 is the existing building and the center building, yeah.
Can you show the front of that building for a second?
Yes.
Yeah, that building just looks out of, this is just my observation, but it looks out of place relative to the other buildings. You've got a 2-story building on the left-hand side. You've got a 2-story building on the right-hand side. It looks like you've got I'm just wondering if there's anything you can do better from an architectural point of view to make it look more like the other buildings. To me, it looks out of place. That's all. That's just an observation.
Well, it will be re-sided and new windows put in. Maybe Ryan, perhaps you can jump in.
But as an example, the building on the left has got a square top. The building on the second half of the building's got a triangular top. Why don't you make them look exactly the same? I mean, they just look out of place on that facade. And I think there's something you could make it look a little bit more eye-pleasing. That's just an observation. That's all.
In concert with that, go to the back end of those buildings and look at what the new condos are going to look at. It's very diversified in the back.
Look at that. So, I mean, I'd almost say, why don't you, is there any way you can make those 2 buildings 2 stories? I mean, it would fit much better into that whole plan than having that 2 single-story buildings sitting next to each other. It's just.
Well, it's probably a difficult question. I understand the point, but whether that foundation can support a 2nd story, I don't know the answer to that. It would require additional parking. It's additional density. So at this point, it's not being proposed as part of the application.
Well, the garage is getting a big load on it.
The garage is built, as you heard before, with reinforced concrete and steel beams. It's a different structure than building 33 is.
Well,
that just building to me just looks completely out of place in what you're trying to do. Just looks totally out of place. Something could be done to the front of it to make it blended. Pardon me?
For them to take into consideration.
Yep, that's all.
Okay, appreciate the comment.
Anything else?
Any other questions? I was asking, any other questions from the board members?
Okay, Mr. Malmont, do you want to wrap things up before I open it to the public?
Well, yeah, I guess there's a question about whether you want a traffic report. I'm not sure whether the board's inclined to vote this evening or have us come back and talk about that. I would like the public to talk before I do any kind of a summation, just so I understand what all the issues are. But why don't we open it to the public and see what we got?
Okay, let's open this to the public. Would anybody from the public like to comment or question anything about this application? Anybody at all from the public?
Yes, I would.
Who is that?
Brian Addis.
Brian Addis. Okay, Mr. Addis, you're going to have to be sworn in first.
Okay.
Bill, you want to swear him in, please?
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And spell your last name.
Attas.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Addis. What do you have to say?
Okay, so just I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna just share my screen just so I can show some illustrations here, I guess.
Mr. Addis, where do you reside?
Okay, so I'm going to point that out right now. So you're seeing a map right now, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm in block right here, my big blue cursor, 10707 lot 11. So I'm directly behind those wetlands, and pretty much, behind where you guys are actually building. So I have some questions and some comments. The first question I have is on the wetlands. And related to that basin, is that a open basin or is it something that's sort of underground?
The basin, yeah, the basin in the northwest corner of the property there is a shallow open basin.
Okay, and that's going to drain into the wetlands over here, correct?
It'll drain towards the wetlands, but yes, the water from that basin will ultimately run into the wetlands.
Okay, and then that goes across Edsel through the back here and then out to some drainage system that nobody has ever been able to really define to me. But you guys are not making any improvements on this side of Edsel or into the wetlands area for drainage, are you?
None are proposed on the plan right now. Samantha's comments asked for us to take a regional look at the wetlands to make sure that we're not adding additional water or there's no negative impacts from this development to that pipe. So we're going to evaluate that as part of our review and conformance with the board engineer's comments.
Okay, because my understanding is that the wetlands used to go all the way back and even across Ryerson and backyards over there. And, they've been filled in by either residents or other development that's been going on. This is really the only section that's left here. That's my backyard, so I'm concerned about that. It floods all the time. The drainage is extremely slow, even going out to where it goes. So if you have a slow drain coming into here, even on a good day, this is just going to be constantly wet. I got the mosquito commission coming out a couple times a year. They test the water, they test the area. So I really want to know a lot more about that and why there's no, DEP permits going on back there. So that's one. I think the board needs to consider that. Drainage is going to be a big thing. Considerations really, I know the gentleman that just spoke about, it doesn't look right when you have sort of a tall building and then a short building and then these tall buildings here. I mean, I would just consider, well, why don't just make them all 1 story then? The new ones, why do you got to go 2 stories? This is my backyard. I'm concerned what am I going to be looking at? And I know you're not going to be doing any work, I guess, in this wooded area here. But again, I don't know what that means. I don't know what I'm going to be looking at. And I know that, there's no, guidelines that says, well, we can't do that because the neighbor's not happy about it. But I'm just curious, what is actually going to happen back here? Is there going to be any improvements? Because I could tell you for years, I've gone back here and picked out car parts, ovens, refrigerators. I know it exists over here as well because the previous developers, maybe it's the current owner, I don't know, has just basically plowed back. You'll see boulders plowed back. You'll see appliances stuck in rocks. So, I mean, really, is there going to be some improvement to this area? Because it's really just an eyesore.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because in evaluating the property with the owner and looking in that area back there, we did talk about some of the debris that's been left back there by prior owners. And the first thing is that no development, no improvement, no soil disturbance, no removal of vegetation is proposed in that wooded area that you pointed out. But the things that they would like to do is to clean that area up. What he's asked me is, under the wetland regulations, can he go in and can he clean up those areas? And the answer is yes, he can take out all that debris, all the, whatever has been dumped back there over the years. So I believe that are his plans to clean that up and make it look nicer, like more of a natural wooded area, but none of the vegetation is going to come down and no structures or anything will be built back there.
Okay, well, that's consistent, sort of what I've been told over the years that, once they say wetlands, I can't do really anything. I can't even make any improvements to the area. So I'm curious as to what that's going to look like and what you're going to be allowed to do. But at least it sounds like you're keeping the trees and some of the vegetation there, which is helpful. There's a lot of deer that go back there, believe it or not. There's a lot less places for that these days. One other comment I have a lot of comments, but I know it's a late night here, but the traffic, if anybody thinks that there's not going to be any impact to traffic, then you're out of your mind. You got Mariners Point in the back here. That's added a lot of capacity back there. Trying to turn out, making a left-hand turn from Edsel out onto Lakeside Boulevard on a good day is dangerous. Right? You got to be going out there 35, 40 miles an hour, just gunning it, just to make sure you don't get hit. And your eyesight, your line of vision is really limited on both sides with the car placed there. And then sometimes people put signs along Lakeside Boulevard. You got people not doing the speed limit. They're doing 45, maybe 50 miles an hour. So what you see, they're coming at you quicker. They're pulling out a quick check quicker. There needs to be a study, but the study needs to be done at a time when we're not in a pandemic, where kids are back at school, people are not working virtually, and more cars are on the road. Because if you do it now, it's a worthless study. But I can tell you right now, I've lived here for 20 some odd years, 25 years. There's going to be problems with traffic on Edsel, and not too many people are going to be going out Ryerson because you got quick check trying to contend with a three-way sort of intersection there is going to be a disaster. So that's my comment there. I'm curious about the sewers. So the fact that you have centralized these laundry mats, these laundry areas, does that sort of take away how you charge the tenants for that connection? In other words, does it, if it's 26 apartments, let's say, because you centralize the laundry, does that say, well, we don't really have to charge them for a connection? We can really charge maybe 15 connections out of 26.
Mr. Addis, that's completely up to the town. That's up to the town, not the builder.
Got it. Okay. So, but does that factor into it though? I guess that's a question for the board.
That's not a question for this board. It's a question for perhaps the mayor and council or the whoever regulates that.
Got it. And just curious, what were the elevations for the buildings, the new buildings number 1 and 2 on the backside? From bottom, to rooftop. What was that again?
Let me just check. The building height is
25 feet, 32.
Yeah, probably from the back is around 30 feet. The measurement in the back.
And is that within, the guidance or the regulations?
We allow up to 35 feet, I believe.
35? Okay. One last consideration for safety. I heard that a car went through the salon or into the salon. Is there any other protection for these units, over here that are on ground level or over here with now people living in them, in terms of how you build it, or I don't know. Just curious comment that I picked up during this whole deliberation.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd kind of defer to the builder or the architect on that. It's going to be really anything that we propose along there. It's going to be up to the county because it's a county road. So if they required some sort of additional protection, then we'd certainly provide that. But I don't know that anything is required or proposed.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to comment or question anything about this application? Leslie?
I would. Yes.
You're going to have to be sworn in, please, Mr. Haggerty.
Kindly raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And your name?
Leslie Cole, C-O-A-L-E.
And where do you live, Ms. Cole?
Sorry, 109 Francis.
Okay. Go ahead and ask your question or make your comments, whatever you want to do.
Okay, first of all, as Mr. Addis mentioned, I've lived here for 53 years, and it's a horror story trying to pull out of Ryerson and Edsel.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt, I apologize. Mr. Mullman, I guess, dropped out, and he's trying to call in. and he needs the secretary to allow him.
Okay, Ron, can you let Mr. Melman back in? Hold on a second, please, Ms. Cole.
Just let them in.
Okay, let's wait for a moment till he comes in.
This is Tom Malman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I apologize. My internet connection just went down, so I'm on the phone, so I can't see the screen, but I can hear what you're saying.
Okay, Ms. Cole, you're on. Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I agree with several points that Mr. Addis mentioned. One, trying to pull out of both Edsel and Ryerson is a nightmare. I can't even imagine what it's like during rush hour. I've never had to do that. I've lived here 53 years, but I have had occasion to use those roads. Also including you have to cross 3 lanes. And I consider that turn lane a lane because there's people there, and you have to consider the traffic. So you know, if somebody's in there, you can't get past that. The quick check is extremely busy. So you have to take that into consideration. So you have people going left and right from there, and you have people going left and right from both. Well, specifically Ryerson, I think, would be the biggest problem there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The front door access goes right onto Lakeside Boulevard. I believe there are side entrances presently. I can't recall specifically in my mind. So I consider that extremely unsafe for the residents that'll be moving into that. I think it's 33. Clearance. You answered about how many of the 26 units would be low income. You said 15%. Residents would have to cross 3 lanes. We talked about that. I see it, safety issues for both residents in the area. Oh, we also have Mariners Point, which again, Mr. Addis had mentioned. So that's has to be taken into consideration besides the normal residents that live there. And you said there's a total of exactly how many parking spots? I thought I said, I heard at one point 58.
58.
Okay, so that's possible 58 cars, not 26. And as far as
26 more than what's there now.
Okay, 26, thank you. When the new buildings go up, that's the possibility of 58 pull out of there. And during rush hour, you could estimate 10 a car every 10 minutes. In Hopatcong, you have to get out at a certain time to get anywhere, specifically Route 80. So Mr. Addis had mentioned it's already backed up in areas during rush hour. Adding those cars will be a situation. The salon and the car crash there, I think there should also be a review of the accidents with the police department, how many crashes have occurred in that area because of the congestion and people trying to make left and right turns. Rush hour beside the traffic, quick check price, 26 units, Mariners Point, incredibly close to the road. Business to residential, what about soundproofing for some of those people going from a business which is closed majority of the time and people are awake, but then, you know, it's going to residential and those units that are going to be up front to Lakeside, you know, that's going to be, I think, pretty annoying, but that's just an observation that I wanted to make a point about. The ADA, you know, doorways need to be wider for wheelchairs to go through. Those are some of the considerations. And also in the interior, bathrooms, hallways, anything like that have to be, I think, 3 feet. And I think that's it. So those are just some thoughts and questions I hope the board considers through the process. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anybody else from the public who would like to comment or question anything at all about this application?
I would, Mr. Gilbert.
Oh,
There you go.
Rhodes. You want
Yes.
to raise your hand, please? Sworn in by Bill?
You swear the testimony
Yes.
about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your full,
Mara Modes, M-O-D-E-S.
okay?
Okay, Ms. Modes, you're on.
I also agree with the two previous people that a traffic study should be done after COVID. We also have to take into consideration that there are seniors right across the street who go in and out of the senior center at different times. Some go for lunch, some go for different activities. So they're in and out of there, and we need to take in that consideration too. School buses are also, I believe that's a school bus stop. They're through there several times a day. And does the car total that they have, does that include visitor parking, or is that going to be added?
Well, that's all the parking spaces, total 58.
Okay, and as far as the Atkins, they use both roads. So if the roads aren't going to be widened or anything else, and pulling out of there, if they're not going to do any kind of, they've got, I believe there's stop signs on there now, but it is across 3 lanes, and people in that middle lane are going in and out of Quick Check and going in and out of those roads and in and out of the senior center, all in that, right in front of those buildings. So there needs to be something done about that too. And I really think the traffic is going to be a major problem. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mode. Anybody else? Anybody else from the public who would like to comment or question this application? Anybody at all?
Can I just ask one more question if there's no other?
Mr. Addis, you're under oath.
Sure. Is there anything going on with renewable energy, or are you doing anything to really save the environment here with your new construction?
Mr. Millman?
I don't know if Ryan, if you can address that, or Bob, in terms of the construction.
Yeah, I think that, well, first of all the units are going to have heat pumps. And Ken was talking about possibly solar panels on the roofs. So, but that's not definite yet.
Okay, does that answer your question, Mr. Addis?
Yeah, it's an answer. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else from the public want to question or comment on this application?
I have a comment.
Yes, is that Mr. Coppola?
It is.
Okay, you want to raise your hand, please?
Sure.
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And your full name, sir?
Frank Coppola, C-O-P-P-O-L-A.
And where do you live, Mr. Coppola?
I live at 5 Ryerson. It's block 10706, lot 4.
Okay, and what do you have to say?
I think this is a fine proposal. I appreciate the consideration with the trees in the storm management area for privacy and to block, some of the view for the neighborhood. I do think the board should seriously consider. I appreciate that's been brought up previously with the traffic considerations. I think my main concern is with the added parking spaces and added traffic, or cars at least in the area, without widening Ryerson Road or putting something to mitigate, it might be difficult. I can see with traffic in that area, especially how it is now with how tight that road is existing. I just want the board to at least consider what improvements can be made to mitigate that if this proposal is to go through.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it.
you very much. Do you have anything else for us, Mr. Coppola?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Anybody else from the public want to comment or question this application? Anybody at all?
Colleen, you're on.
Do I need to be sworn in?
Yeah, sure, why not? Bill?
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, your full name.
Colleen Lyons.
And go ahead.
I'm with the Lake Hopatcong Commission. So I just, the commission did make a just small comment in the letter. This is outside of the typical area that we would normally comment on, but due to the size of the development, I just thought I would say that, you're talking about a traffic study which could lead to increasing the size of a road. That's increased impervious coverage on top of the impervious coverage that's, being proposed through this development, and just really considering, the resulting impacts from stormwater on the lake, since this is within the watershed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Would anybody else from the public like to comment or question this application at all? Anything at all? Seeing no one else, I'll bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board at this time?
Do we need to get some of these things by Mott McDonald satisfied? There's 47 things back there. There's quite a few.
Well, that's up to us. I mean, we could go ahead and we could approve this, or we could ask for it to be brought back to us with some revisions. What do we want to do?
I think there's a lot of outstanding things. I'd like to see it cleaned up, and I'd like to see the traffic addressed.
Okay.
I don't know how that's going to work with the COVID issue, but I mean, I think some sort of engineering study should be done by a professional that deals with traffic to give us a little more insight into it.
Sounds like they need to put a traffic light in.
Well, that's up to the county business, Phil. We've been fighting that battle for years.
That is completely up to the county. That's a county road. And that's an impossible study where we're at right now in COVID and everything else. It's an impossible study to try to put anything that's predictable on any of those roads right now. It is.
So let me clarify my point. I think that the traffic information they need to provide has to be for Edsel and Ryerson. I mean, I don't think they're responsible for the traffic on Lakeside. That's my opinion. Lakeside services more than just their development. They do directly impact the two service roads on either side. So some information regarding those two roads and the additional cars should be presented.
I do just want to add a comment. Seems like the board does understand that about a week or two ago, we did have another board meeting. I was on testimony from a traffic engineer who does solely traffic studies. And, they did testify that they don't anticipate traffic counts being what they were, we'll call it pre-COVID, for several years. So as far as, getting traffic counts, that's not something that's, going to be easily done within the near future. Just, want to put that out there, that a traffic engineer did testify to that he doesn't see it coming back for several years. So if even that, because so many, businesses are opting to have more employees than ever work from home and downsizing and things. So,
but they can anticipate things like school buses.
Yeah. But they can also look at it. They can also look at it in.
Go ahead, Justin.
They can also look at it in different terms. I mean, we can see how many residences are in those back areas, and you could present some sort of data on how much capacity the roadways currently serve.
Right, and I agree completely, Justin, that there are alternate ways, but what we're traditionally used to seeing when the first step is they go out and they do their traffic counts, that's probably not the type of information you're going to be able to get in the near future. So,
right,
but I do agree that there are alternate ways and other ways that they can at least try to accurately predict, what's going on and what will be going on.
I'd like to see something with the wetlands be investigated a little bit so we understand about that drainage to the back area. The gentleman made a very good point. And I have walked back in that area, and I have seen, after even a light rain, how that floods out. So I think that needs to be looked at a bit more. You need to look at the ADA issue and designate which ones are going to be, you know, more definite on what's going to be what. I agree with Phil about all the units Lakeside are trying to come together, but I don't think make that appearance. You know, you have straight continuity in the back row with the new homes, the new condos, but the front is a hodgepodge. And when you go to the back side of that hodgepodge, you got it worse conditions. I just think there needs to be more approach to that. Parking is good. I think we have good parking there, which is a rarity in this town.
Let me ask Mr. Malmont a question.
Yes.
Would you like to bring this back to us? I mean, you've gotten some input from us as well as from the general public. Would you like us to continue this application, or would you prefer that we vote on something tonight?
I think given the issues you've raised, the prudent course is to come back and address some of the questions that we can't address this evening. So I would suggest we do that. I would appreciate, though, hearing from the board, perhaps, your general feeling of the application, assuming that we can come back with good traffic testimony. How does the board feel about the nature of these variances, adding residential uses here? You know, what we proposed tonight. I'd like to get some feedback to the direction so our client will know whether it's worth spending additional time and effort pursuing this, you know, given the board's general feelings.
All right. Before we do that, let me ask Sam a question. Sam, I believe that your firm is doing a study, and phase 2 is on its way. How would this project fit in with what you foresee for the future?
For the redevelopment plan?
Yes.
It has not been started at this point, so I don't want to comment on,
right.
You know.
Right. Okay. My feeling on that, I mean, what I was getting at is we're looking at redeveloping the entire corridor, and this might
fit in.
Be something that fits right in. So,
I think
other members of the board, give Mr. Malmont some feedback.
I mean, my 2 cents are is that it looks great. I think it's a great idea, but I think they do need to address traffic, and I think maybe a little bit of continuity of design.
Guys, stop. We need to separate the two. The redevelopment is in the plan. It's in the master plan. We're getting that to development through the council. That's one issue. If we have issues here with our planning board, that's what I think we got to send back to them to address. Don't confuse us with redevelopment. Redevelopment is going to be what it is.
I'm not conflating it with redevelopment. I'm just saying in terms of the overall look. Personally, I would think that a little more continuity would be good for the development, and then obviously the major point of traffic. So.
I got it, Justin. You're right on point. I just don't want us to get all wrapped up around the bureaucracy of a redevelopment plan. That's we're taking that path.
That's the future. That's not this point.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, next question. I had just a question. You've got 58 parking spaces. Are the parking spaces going to be reserved and assigned for each apartment?
I'm not sure we have an answer to that question yet. We can take it under advisement. I'll ask the applicant what their intentions are if they know them at this point. I'm not sure that they do.
I mean, you've got the hair salon. Where do they park? Right now, they park in the back. Will they be using those parking spaces?
They will use some of them, sure, because there's no parking in the front for that use. They'll park in the back. Yeah, and the discussions that I've had with the owner are that he intends to designate parking spaces. So there would be parking spaces designated specifically for the salon right behind their building.
So that would cut back on the number of parking spaces available for the tenants.
No, the number of parking spaces that we provide factor in what's required for the salon.
Okay.
This is part of the calculation.
Yes.
I also agree with some of the other members that, regarding the consistency of the look.
you know, it seems like you're planning a nice investment there, but, you know, the front and the buildings that don't necessarily match, I think will take away from it, especially too, as well, with some of the buildings not being oriented the same way as well. So, you know, a cleaner approach would be nice.
I appreciate the comment. Just bear in mind, these are existing buildings for the most part, so we're playing the hand that we're dealt to a certain extent.
Right.
Yeah, but you're spending a lot of money. Spend a little bit more money to make it look a lot neater all the way around. Make it more pleasing to everybody. And raise the rent 10%.
That's easy for you, Phil.
I don't know. I just think it's mixed, too mixed in the front compared to total continuity in the back. That's all.
I think they did a nice job on the building on the corner where the salon is. They did a nice job. That it looks nice. It looks good opposite the other building that was just put up. Smile, the home.
Yep.
Those two accent themselves nice. So it's starting to look really nice over there. And I think a little more effort will get it looking really nice.
Better, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of advantages to this. We just got to connect the dots, guys. That's all.
Yeah. I'd say positive, if you want a word. Positive. Very positive feedback.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We want it to work.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Belmont?
I appreciate that. So what will the date be in January that we're carried to?
Danielle? We're going to carry this to another date. Can we put it in January?
Yes, but that's the reorg meeting. I already have a couple applications scheduled, so that's going to be another long night. But yeah, we could do it at the reorg meeting.
And what
We wouldn't have to go through the whole thing that you went through this time, but
no.
Address the issues that we just talked about.
Understood. What was that date, Danielle?
I believe it's January 19th.
Well, can we?
It was last year.
It just I'd like to be carried without further public notice, so we have to get the date right.
Hold on one second. I'm double checking right now. Yeah, it's January 19th. The cutoff date for that would be January 8th for any new documents that you're going to submit to me.
Right.
Does that give you enough time?
Yeah, I think let's schedule for the 19th. If we run out of time, we'll come back and ask you for more time. But I'd ask the board to carry without further public notice to January 19th at 7:30.
Okay, somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Duncan made the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Ray?
Mr. Bongiovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney?
Yes.
Mrs. Crock? I think we may have lost her.
She ran out of time.
Yep. Gotcha. Mr. Leggio?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Tappan?
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Belmont and the rest of you, we will see you back here on the 19th of January.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Merry Christmas. We'll see you next year.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, everyone.